United States entered into World War II, it had an interesting, unforgettable summer. President Roosevelt's New Deal had mostly stalled out. Unemployment was still hovering around 15%, and people wanted to escape from the problems facing them. In baseball, Ted Williams hit .406 for the Boston Red Sox. Joe DiMaggio hit safely in 56 consecutive games for the Yankees. The Brooklyn Dodgers won the National League pennant for the first time since 1920. Bob Hope had his first USO performance at California's March Field, and Walt Disney's Pictures released Dumbo. The popularity of the first season of Forecast encouraged CBS to bring it back. Season 2 premiered on July 14, 1941, with a 60-minute play from Hollywood starring Marlene Dietrich. It was called The Arabian Nights and directed by Charles Vanda.
I have such tales to tell as no man yet has heard. Wondrous as life itself, magic as birth, beauteous as deathless love. Hear then these words.
Such tales to tell indeed has Scheherazade. Tales from the world's greatest single treasure house of fiction. This evening, during the opening half hour, we shall bring before you as a dramatic prologue the extraordinary story of the great King Shahryar, and of how Scheherazade the Beautiful came to relate the tales of the Arabian Nights. Following this background of our proposed series, we shall present a complete half hour, typical of one you might hear during a representative week of actual commercial broadcasting.
It is related that in Samarkand, in ancient days, there dwelt a certain king.
Shahryar was his name, and great his power.
As numberless as trees upon a plain, his subjects.
His wealth as boundless as the sea.
Yet was he king of nothing in his heart.
Until the coming of Scheherazade.
Let her name be spoken in whisper. Scheherazade.
Let the magic of her name sing with the rivers. Scheherazade.
Let the wonder of her name echo forth from mountain top to farthest mountain top. Scheherazade.
It is my name they speak. I am Scheherazade. Yet there's little need for wonder or for lavish praise in my behalf. Being a woman, I have but lived as woman must live. And living so, have loved. Loved well.
This then was the beginning.
The following week from New York, Kay Thompson starred in 51 East 51, an on-the-scene comedy at a fictitious upscale New York bar.
Hello? Hello? I'd like to send a telegram, please, to the radio audience. Dear radio audience, there's a table reserved for you tonight at 51 East 51. Fun and everything in swizzle sticks. Love, Kay Thompson. Send that as a straight wire, will you? And, charge it to CBS.
Today, Kay Thompson is mostly remembered as the author of the Eloise children's book series, but at the time, she was also an actress and singer. All of her talents were on display in this pilot.
Ladies and gentlemen, 51 East 51 is a new musical show with comedy and vice versa. 51 East 51 is also the approximate address of the newest, smartest, swankest supper club in the city. And almost anything is more than likely to happen there, and usually does. Now, the entertainment menu reads as follows.
At the time, Kay Thompson was single, but not for long. Her work as a musician, composer, actress, and writer helped her meet someone who had similar taste, Bill Spear. The two were married in 1942. 2 weeks later, Spear produced and directed a Forecast episode called Song Without End, starring Burgess Meredith and Margot, which was to be a biography program on various musicians and composers.
Mr. Spear would like to tell you what this is all about. Nobody is born into the world hating good music. But because the word has gotten around that music is good for you and is a necessary part of your education, many of us have come up through the age of consent and well beyond it, with a spinach-like connotation in our minds when words like symphony, concerto, tone poem, sonata, and the like are mentioned. Spinach, of course, does not taste any good at all, and you were right when you thought it didn't. But music does taste good, and it's too bad if anyone ever made you think it didn't. In good music,
I was a music critic. Music is what I really started out to be, and what I think I still know best, although I've gotten away with, excuse the expression, murder. But in 1929, my brother, who was very much older than I, was copy chief at Batten, Barton, Durston, and Osborne, the great advertising agency in New York. The agency had just signed up. These were the very new days, please remember, of radio. It was a very, very new medium. But in those days, BBD&O, to shorten it, had inveigled the Metropolitan Opera Company into signing up an exclusive contract with the agency to use its artists. Roy Durston, the vice president of the agency, was having lunch with my brother and said that he had now done this great thing, but now he was suddenly confronted by the problem of making programs that would fit into an hour, and that nobody could understand, nobody knew enough about the opera lingo, and how long was Una furtiva lagrima from L'Elisa d'Amore? What was this thing from, was that a fast or a slow one from Rigoletto? And Tristan and Isolde was probably too heavy. And he needed somebody to arrange programs with the conductors and with the singers and with the artists. And my brother said, well, my kid brother, meaning me, Bill, who was a music critic at Musical America magazine, getting, I think I was up to $32.50 a week, which was high living in 1929, said he knows everything about music and maybe he'd be your man. So we had lunch, and anyway, I got lured into radio and never to quit until I came east some years ago.
Ludwig van Beethoven, 1770 to 1827. Standing colossus-like at the gateways between the old music and the new, tearing the symphony to pieces and remaking it in his own image. A man who could shake his fist at the destiny which robbed him of the power to know his own music.
Radio was great training that I don't know where the kids today are going to get anything to equal it, because I came too late for stock companies in vaudeville, so radio was our break-in. And practically all the good actors out here now, of my age, cut their teeth in radio, because you'd have to do dialects, ages, and you had to create a picture with just your voice. In a lot of ways, radio was a lot funnier. You could be funnier on radio than you could on television. Jack Benny never was as funny on television as he was on radio.
Forecast number 7, broadcast from New York on August 11, 1941, was called The Class of 41. It was a review of newcomers to showbiz, with young performers writing their own material, including Jim Backus, who later go on to voice Mr. Magoo, played Thurston Howell III on Gilligan's Island, and stars Frank Stark, James Dean's father, in Rebel Without a Cause.
Hello! You probably still never met us, but we're still the Class of 41.
Hello. Well, now you've met us. We're not going to sell you magazines or books or a vacuum cleaner. We won't enlarge your brain or make your wallet any leaner.
We're not going to sell you hosiery.
And we're sure none of us meddle. Plaster you with life insurance for when you're slightly senile. All we're going to sell is us.
I'm Hab at 41.
We went to Vassar.
I'm an Aggie from Oklahoma.
I just crawled out of a mine shaft. I ain't got no diploma.
We were?
Slacks, shorts, and dungarees, sweaters and skirts above our knees, overalls, Homburg, sailor suits, scaparella gowns, and cowboy boots.
We like
ice cream, pastrami, Betty Grable, Schopenhauer.
And actually, Magoo, we used to have to do what was called a double in those days. You played your straight voice, and then if you wanted to get hired, for them to save money, you'd do another voice, as far away from your own voice as you possibly could. Well, I developed a voice. He was a sheriff, he was a farmer, but it was essentially Magoo. And that's where I developed him. I did about 5 years on Edgar Bergen's show. I played the pompous guy that he would run into.
Like many radio actors and actresses, Jim Backus specialized in different voices. His farmer drawl later became Mr. Magoo. And before he was Thurston Howell III, he created that voice for radio. like his guest appearance on this Richard Diamond private detective episode entitled The Blue Serge Suit, originally broadcast on ABC on February 9th, 1951.
Oh, come in, come in.
What's happened?
Oh, if this keeps up, I may be living on dream pills. I've been eating them like peanuts.
Well, maybe if you gave me a hint.
I have been robbed.
Well, didn't we go through this thing in
Here, I've been robbed here in my apartment.
What?
I came home, took a bath, went in to get dressed, opened my wardrobe, and to my complete horror, found 3. My only 3 blue serge suits were missing.
Oh, no.
A potent reaction. Oh, no. Now, why didn't I think of that?
I can't imagine. It's certainly simple enough.
We'll spend a whole day insulting each other after you solve this mystery. So for now, strain yourself and try looking like a detective with a $100 retainer in his pocket.
And although Class of 1941 wasn't picked up for regular broadcast, the concept of an ensemble cast of young talent was used again. It sounded very much like a musical number one might hear at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Or, for instance, The Stars of Tomorrow, introduced by Bob Hope and Lucille Ball at the 61st Oscars on March 29, 1989, less than 1 month before Miss Ball's death.
You're telling me in another life I was Shirley MacLaine.
Oh, no.
Anyway, here we are with 19 triple threaders. Make a note of their names now. You're going to be hearing a lot from these kids.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Oscar winners of tomorrow, in a number especially written for this year's show by Marvin Hamlish and Fred Ebb, and choreographed by Kenny Ortega.
It seems that whether 1941, 1989, or 2018, the stars of tomorrow are always in vogue, even if they're not quite ready for primetime.